Platinum End is a controversial series that has aired in the last year, and there's a lot of stigma around the show. After 24 episodes, the show is concluded this week, and while I have various opinions of the show, I think it's overall a pretty good show. Today, I want to dive into the show and talk about why I think it's pretty good. And of course, spoilers ahead. For those who don't know, Platinum End is an anime/manga that is created by the same creators of Death Note. Being frank here for a minute, I have never watched the show or anything of Death Note, but all I do know is the ending is at the very least underwhelming. Unfortunately, that carried on to Platinum End's line where everyone speculated and assumed the ending would be, well, bad. Personally, I think people should be more open-minded to a creator or team when creating a new show. You don't know what they are thinking when writing the show, and of course, adaptations will vary. But yeah, Platinum End got the short end of the stick. But let's dive into the meat of the show. What's it about? The series follows a guy named Mirai Kakahashi, a rather depressed middle schooler who lost his family in his youth. The first episode starts with Mirai attempting to commit suicide, a very dark and read out of the gate element to include, but god, it gets crazier later. A lolly-looking angel named Nasa, however, saves Mirai from his sudden death, and is explained simply who she is. She's an angel sent by God along with 12 other angels who save 13 of the most suicidal and miserable people in Japan, and sets up a game where the 13 of the god candidates have to decide whom will become the next god. Crap gets crazy way too quick. We learn there is rankings for these angels, and we know candidates can either own wings, a red arrow, which is basically Cupid's arrow with a time limit, and or a white arrow, which will instantly kill someone who is struck with it. These factors at first seem pretty simple, but opens up a new can of worms to a death battle where it's difficult to see what to do. As we later find out, there's of course different motives each candidate has. Some want to obviously become God, some want to find happiness, some just want to die, and so forth. The reason I love the setup for all this is because it's inconspicuous of who the other god candidates are and what they're going to do. In the first half of the show keeps its element until the second half, where a candidate ends up telling the whole world of the god selection process, and now you have the flipping United States of America sending assassins to murder the candidates. Like I said, crap gets crazy. Seriously, I love this. There's a ton to love about the show, like characters like Mukaida, who developed to be a super important character to the main characters. Even Metropoliman, who throughout the show was alluded to be this final boss villain in the story to defeat, ends up dying halfway through, and now the show shifts really hard. The strategic and slow elements did not vanish, but the pacing of who is the next candidate to die starts to escalate much further. Every time a god candidate died, I was crying seriously. The events at the stadium, for instance, left me horrified, but that goes to show the amazing writing that went into Metropoliman. They wrote him to be just the summon of evil, and when he was gone, it felt like all the attention was almost for nothing. I could keep on rambling on about the events of the show, however, but I want to talk about the ending. I found to be indifferent about the ending, and I think that was the point of it. In the end, it was nice to find out one of the young boys out of the candidates was voted to be God. In the end, after 6 years of monitoring humans and watching angels save countless lives in heaven, the new god ends up killing himself. All 24 episodes ends in an instant. Yeah, it was certainly an unexpected turn. What ends up happening is every single human on Earth, including the angels, vanish. It left me sitting in my chair for a few minutes replaying the video with the thought, what just happened? All of the tension and build up to this god ends in a second, and all lives are lost because of this kid. Yoneda, one of the god candidates, never got to know the origins of the original god. Saki and Mirai, both of the main characters, did not end up living fruitful lives with each other. Everything they've been through is gone. However, it's interesting because before the main characters died, they were satisfied. Mirai at one point in his life was ready to die, and Mirai did eventually find happiness. Nasa, his angel, helped him to find this happiness by letting him live. That's it. He wasn't upset about dying. He was just glad to live a fruitful life for the time he was alive. But does any of this matter? Not really. After these shots, we are thrown in front of the Earth as the camera pans towards stars and very cryptic messages appear on screen. It's unknown who is stating these words, but I'd assume it's either the writers or aliens of some kind. The cryptic messages are convoluted and not straightforward, but what I personally got from it is that death controls our lives. We live to achieve our goals, we live to make our lives fruitful before death, we mourn death, we avoid death. And this understanding brings the best in humans. We all know in 100+ years our generation will be gone, but that does not suddenly deteriorate our lives. We still choose to love. We still choose to keep living. We still choose to think consciously, even with that burden on our shoulders. None of those emotions would exist if we could live forever. Death is the burden we cope with. All the characters in the show wanted to die at some point, to end their suffering, but contradicts what the show tries to instigate. So I think the ending is trying to tell us to live life how you want. It doesn't matter what occurs on your timeline, because it's going to end one day, and everything that you accomplish and everything you suffered with will end. Man, it got pretty thanatological there according to Google, but that's the issue with this ending. It's not direct at all, and everything I just said is clearly just my opinion. I'd love to know what the author's goal for this show are, because I want to fully grasp the message. But for now, my interpretation fits well with how the anime went for me. And finally, the music for the show was great. Both the endings and opening were amazing. Specifically, my favorite is the second ending. The music fits the vibes of the show, and of course, seeing our characters disappear in the sunlight held up its meaning until the very end. With that, the ending was indeed strange and cryptic, but it leaves a large anus door open for analysis, and overall ends the show in a very interesting way no one I think expected. Let me know how you guys interpreted the ending, because I'm curious to see what you guys think. No matter the Twitter randos who repeat how much they hated the show, Platinum End will be remembered for me as a unique and intriguing story about death. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.